Hello and welcome everyone to this video series, Deacon Speaking. Today we welcome the Venerable Janet King. And Janet has been a deacon in our diocese for some time. And I think, like me, you'll enjoy hearing her story and her call to the diaconate. Janet, why don't we begin? Can you tell us a little bit about how you first heard this call to the diaconate and a little bit of your story?
We came to Idaho in 1976 for me to work in a migrant health center. I had been a lifelong Presbyterian, and there was no Presbyterian church in Rupert. And the Episcopal Church was the prettiest building in town. So that's where we went. And on the second Sunday that we went, my husband walked out the door and said, "Well, we don't need to go back there. They did the same thing they did last week. They read it right out of a book." So then we took the tour and we got back to the Episcopal Church and became confirmed and finished the Inquirer's class before that. And then I thought, okay, now what? And about that time, the Deacons training program with the Roman Catholic Church was being run cooperatively with the Episcopal Church. And so that was what was next. My congregation had never seen a deacon. I didn't know much more than they did. But I'm insatiably curious. So that's where I ended up.
Well, that is kind of a big deal because at that time, the deacons in the Catholic Church, as they are still, all male. So for them to welcome a female into the process, that was kind of a hurdle in itself, it seems like.
Not so much, because they required all their spouses to attend all the classes. And the irony of that is, in the last 2 weeks, I have attended Father Tom at his new assisted living place, and a woman sitting across from him at the table looked at me and said, "You look familiar." And she is the widow of one of my classmates 40 years ago.
Wow. I have a friend whose husband is a deacon in the Catholic Church, and she's gone through that whole process. She herself has felt a call to the diaconate, but one that she hasn't been able to follow up on other than through her husband. Yeah, interesting. So you began as a Presbyterian, found the Episcopal Church, and then felt the call to do more.
Mm-hmm.
How did you think that was going to look when you started the process?
Well, in a particular way, it was mostly, in my thinking, a way to serve people as a whole rather than just as a diagnosis as a nurse practitioner. So it was, at that point, pretty much focused on my work.
So were you still serving migrants at that time and serving as a nurse practitioner?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Up until I retired at 68.
So when did you become a nurse practitioner?
1976.
Oh, when you came here.
So I was brand new.
Yes.
And my outreach worker from that time just died. And she had instructed her children to be sure and tell me. And the thing that I remember is how much she taught me. Because as a green nurse practitioner, I didn't know what I didn't know, which turns out to be one of the most important things to know.
Yeah, in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have a way of, though, learning quickly when we have to. I suspect you were catching on fast.
Well, not so fast with Spanish. I'd had 3 years of Spanish in school, could not speak a word, and they patiently taught me over years. But they were very careful not to teach me to swear.
Really? It was because of the goodness in you or what? I don't know.
Oh, I don't think so. No. One of my favorite stories about Father later is from when I was in CPE, clinical pastoral education at St. Luke's. We had a class that included 5 women, one of whom was a chaplain at St. Al's. Irish Catholic. A lot of the patients thought she was a nun, but she was not. She was married to an alcoholic and had 3 kids. And she got to worrying about her mouth. So she went to see Father Later, who was the head of the chaplains at that time. And he said, well, of course you don't want to take the name of the Lord in vain. Say something ladylike, like shit. And I thought, this is spiritual advice I can use.
He gave you a different vocabulary. I like it. So tell us about a nurse practitioner. I mean, you're helping people. You're at their most basic level, health needs, and then helping a migrant population that's always changing. Tell us about how that began to blend with your diaconal role and how you see those two fitting together.
I think it's a matter of seeing them as a whole person and not just bits and pieces, and appreciating where they've come from and what they're up against and so on. So for instance, one day I was out in one of the migrant housing units, which used to be a German prisoner of war camp in Minidoka County. And it was a group of buildings around kind of a courtyard, and I was giving kids shots. And they heard a helicopter overhead. And in seconds, I was sitting there by myself.
Mm. Wow. So they ran.
Oh boy.
What did that mean to them?
Danger.
Mm-hmm.
And disruption and loss of work and place and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't gotten any better.
No, it's particularly scary, I know, for lots of people in migrant, who are living a migrant lifestyle right now.
Right.
Yeah. Do you, I know that you have done lots of different things as a deacon. And I know at your core, you're a nurse practitioner in the healing arts. So, and I know you're also a spiritual director.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that and maybe some other ministries then you've participated in?
Well, I told you I was curious. And so as I was just about ready to retire, I thought, I'm going to go audit the Utah Ministry Formation Program. Because as a former member of the Commission on Ministry, I was curious about it. And besides, it was a way to learn more. And so I did that. And one of the things that was said in our class was there is a shortage of spiritual directors. And I thought, well, I could go do that. So I did. And it has been not a matter of directing anybody to do anything in particular, but just to sit and be present to one another. And it's just precious.
It kind of reminds me of you talking about seeing the whole person.
Mm-hmm.
Another way of just being fully present to people.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways it fits closely with how you have been called all along to be with people, individually. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I'm a thoroughly introverted person, and being a nurse practitioner is good because I only have to have a room that's big enough for 2 or 3 people, and that's plenty for me.
Well, you say that, but you also have been the archdeacon. And I know that you preach regularly and that you're part of the High Desert School for Ministry. So other ways that you're ministering, how does that fit?
Well, when introverts get tired, they go home and go to bed. So I can do those, and that's fun. And then I rest up.
I can appreciate that too. I used to think I was an extrovert, but then I realized it does take a lot out of me.
Yeah.
I understand. So, can you speak a little bit about your ministry in the High Desert School for Ministry and what you're doing there?
Well, I would identify myself as the gadfly because Father David Wedstein is the director and the lecturer and designs it. And Mary Ellen Gallagher is so well qualified, having taught at the School for Deacons in the Diocese of California. And I just like to show up.
That's so interesting you use the word show up, though. I think that's a big part about being a deacon. Deacons show up. If I were to use two words that maybe could say maybe carried across all deacons that I know of, it's showing up, being there.
In good times and bad.
In good times and bad. Yeah. Practicing the presence. It's not always about what you do, but showing up. Yeah. Is there anything you would say to new deacons who might be, or people interested in this ministry?
Deacons don't come in one size. And there's a place for all kinds of skills and interests. And as long as you want to make the community more loving and caring, good.
Yeah, in fact, when I'm talking about being a deacon, that's the very thing I say too. There's no one deacon. There's no one profile, right? And when I think about the deacons I know, we all are different. We all have our own backgrounds that bring us to this place. And our gifts manifest differently. But kind of going back to that whole showing up thing. The deacons I know show up. They're there. They're not
in a variety of places.
Yeah, in a variety of places, which is, yeah, it's a miracle in itself. It's kind of like the whole Paul story, you know. It's about listening and responding, and doing that for a very long time. So, how long have you been a deacon, Janet?
I think it's 37 years.
37 years. So, good times and bad, easy and hard. Anything that stands out that you'd like to say about that across the years, what do you think?
Well, at the very outset, I got pregnant in the middle of deacon's training.
Wow.
After 10 years of being married. Surprise! And until about last year, it never occurred to me, why didn't I quit? But I didn't. So
I guess you weren't supposed to consider that. You had your own little miracle bundle. Yeah. So the thing is you can do this deacon work through all kinds of phases of your life, right?
Oh boy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very busy times in life, challenging times in life. But if you're like me, it is that grounding in the spirit, listening to the call that allows you to keep going despite the circumstances. Well, and maybe because of the circumstances, right? I mean,
yes.
Thank God for the presence, right? It sustains us during all kinds of life challenges. Well, Janet, thank you so much for this interview and allowing us to share your life story with the rest of the people of the diocese. And thanks everyone who's listening to our interview today. We will be back again with another story for you to listen to, with another one of our deacons shortly.